Filling a journal page can be a little bit daunting, and maybe it's tempting to look at other page spreads and feel like we need to emulate or match someone else's standard or style. So in this video I'll share my 5 steps for filling a page with your creative ideas, really making your own journaling process easy, enjoyable and fun. My first suggestion for getting motivated to fill your journal page is to select one that really gives you energy when you look at it, really inspires you. Look at what you've got, look at what you've already made, and maybe think about the current season, the current month, or some events that give you some thoughts about how you might decorate the page. Think about the size of journal that you want to decorate, think about colours and styles that are in your mood today, and feel free to start and stop filling a journal, because actually there are no rules about how to go about this. Sometimes we reach creative blocks and we need something fresh and different to start with to really motivate us to fill a page. So I'm going to be using some of these journals in 2019 to fill, but I'm also going to be swapping around, mixing and matching, and not necessarily finishing one before I start another. Which brings me to the second suggestion about filling a journal page, which is really thinking about your mood on the day and deciding on a journal page that works for you. So let me just clear some of these away and I'll explain in a bit more detail. If we're going to be inspired to fill a journal page, then we need to be in the mood. So sometimes I feel that I'm up for filling a journal and filling some pages where there's quite a lot of blank and white. But sometimes I'm more in the mood for filling some pages and adding to something that's a bit more what I'd call junky. So think about whether you want to select a journal and select some pages that have got more already covered, or do you want to write in one that's got more lines and more space for you to add your text and your words. And also maybe think about whether you want to play around with little extra pieces of paper to go in those belly bands, whether you want to find a page that's got fold out or that's got little pockets so that you can add extra inserts to those nooks and crannies. This botanical journal evolved into something that had many more pockets and pages and nooks and crannies to play with, and it became nice and chunky. And sometimes I'm really in the mood for playing in one that's got that chunkiness and got all those exciting little spaces to add to. But sometimes I need that colour to inspire me, and I get that from pre-printed pages and from book pages. So second suggestion is listen to your feelings, listen to the mood of the day to decide what you want to do when you're going to decorate a page. My third suggestion naturally follows from that, which is gather your supplies around you that you want to use when you decorate. So I thought I'd just share a few of the supplies that I use when I'm decorating my pages. Have a little tub of washi tape, and you'll have seen in a few of my recent journals this little gold one appearing, so that's very festive. I've got a lovely stripy one in some muted colours. I do have another tub with some other washi tapes in, but these seem to be the ones that I'm reaching for at the moment. I've used purple a fair bit in one of my journals as well. So I gather my washi tapes around me, and I also have a couple of tubs of ephemera, so you can see a lovely selection of journaling cards to write on and little bits of ephemera. I've got handmade flowers, I've got bits of painty paper that I've cut up, I've got little stamped images here, I've got pieces from magazines, so some flowers, and all sorts that I've selected and put into a box so that I can get at them easily. And I also have gathered around me as I am journaling my lovely bag of scrapbook papers. Now, these are obviously not all of my scrapbook papers, but to be motivated and make life easy as I'm filling the page, what I want to have handy to reach for are pieces of paper with texture, colour, tone, pattern that I feel goes with the particular page that I want to make. And recently I've been having a go at making a teal and orange Christmassy festive journal. and I'll show you a bit more of that in a minute. So I have in this bag of goodies a whole load of pieces of medium-sized scrapbook paper and card and squared paper that I pull from, and these are the ones that I can rip and add to a page, and I can also sit in an evening on the sofa and have a comfy relaxing time just writing on the little pages, and those are things that I would then incorporate into the page itself. So I would have these supplies sitting around me, just tidy those away. I would also have things that bring colour and creative pattern to my pages. So I tend to have sitting on my desk chalks. These are some really beautiful natural muted tones that I use on many of the pages, and I also reach often for this very battered old but varied mix of colours in this chalk palette. So I have those handy, I have those sitting around me. I have a little cutter, so for cutting my little pieces of paper I have that sitting around me, and by being able to reach easily for these items it just makes that creative process really enjoyable and happy. I also make up a number of little personal project life cards from nice pieces of paper, so I have a stack of those handy to put more text on if I want to write. And I also have little handmade envelopes that I've made from old dictionary pages and thesaurus, and on this particular one I've made a small one, and if you can see I have stamped on it and I've added some glittery gold and green to the leaves, to the holly leaves, and also shaded the berries in red. So I have a sort of a range and a mixture of things around me, and I just reach and I play with them, and I would encourage you in your process to try different combinations of things that are just sitting around you. Don't necessarily go for the traditional, and play and use supplies that haven't had much love for a while, because sometimes it's really surprising to see what the results can be when you put things together that you wouldn't necessarily traditionally reach for. And that brings me to my fourth suggestion, which is about the page itself. So how do we get motivated and make it easy and fun to create a journal page itself? So I've got a couple of suggestions. The first one is to consider the pages as if they were a card. So if they were a Christmas card or a birthday card, how would you make those pages into something that has a focal point and a sentiment and maybe some background? So this particular spread I made this week, I have a stamped and painted robin from a focal point. I love using vintage papers, so I've got music paper, vintage music paper here. I've stayed with the colour theme of teal and a little bit of orange, or the dark browns anyway. I've added some of my little script on some scrapbook paper, but this is essentially more of a feature with a focal point. Whereas last week, in my last video, my other suggestion is, don't worry about being structured, just have a go. Which takes me to my last suggestion, which is about sitting back and seeing what you've done. When you have completed a page, reflect on the good, reflect on what you've created, and compliment yourself on having a go and having been motivated to put something together. If you've enjoyed this motivational video, if you love playing with paper, with making journals like me, then hit the subscribe button and the notification bell, and I'll see you next week. Bye.